Welcome to the Catholic Cafe, where Catholic truth is served fresh daily. We've made you a reservation in the luxurious corner booth, so come on in and see what's on the menu today. Now, here's your host, Deacon Jeff Drzymski.
Greetings and welcome to the Catholic Cafe. I'm Deacon Jeff, sitting in the luxurious corner booth out of the Catholic Cafe. And Sam and Tom, Ziggy and Venerable Tom, have taken the week off. They work so hard, they get paid absolutely nothing. And so I gave them a week off. I thought that would be very generous of me.
That is so sweet of you.
Yeah, and that lovely voice you just hear is my wife, who
Hi.
is also paid nothing, but she has earned her keep. She is an awesome woman, wife of a deacon, and I thought it would be great to have you on the show with me. We don't get enough of these shows together, do we?
No.
Yeah,
no, there's plenty.
No, I think we have more in store for you. But I thought it would be good to have you on to talk about something I think that's kind of cool in the church, and just the concept of the permanent deacon. And you know one of those pretty well.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I know a couple. One very well.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. And so I think that talking about the diaconate is kind of cool. And a lot of people think it's kind of like it's a function. There are functionary parts of being a deacon, and I think it's a vital role in the church. It's ancient in the church. We read about the deacons, the establishment of the diaconate, really in the 6th chapter of Acts, right? The Acts of the Apostles, and so it's old, been around for a long time.
Beginning of the church.
That's right, and but a lot of people kind of see them as glorified altar servers.
I do think that's true. A lot of people think I'll be a deacon because I've already been an elector. I've already been an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. I've already been an usher. I'll just be a deacon.
I'll just move on up the ranks a little bit.
I think some people think that way.
What I want people to start thinking about is, especially if you're a guy out there and you're thinking I had this inkling that maybe being a deacon would be, but I didn't know if I could, whatever. And you start having those second thoughts, and I think some of that might be the devil.
Maybe so.
But I will say that I think if we come from another perspective, and that is really like the blessings.
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
The unique blessings that come to a deacon, that it's a blessing to be a deacon. There's some really cool things, and so I don't want to look at it so much as benefits.
No, but blessings is good word.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a deacon, and they're really unique because these blessings that come to the deacon. They're really reserved to the deacon.
Yes.
So it's like things we do, and part of the function, part of the visible sign in the church of the deacon, especially at liturgy. And there's things about the diaconate that are neat, but they're unique to the diaconate.
Right, like that you get to sit up on the altar with our kids.
Right. So we have come up with a little list. Maybe a baker's dozen or so of things that we think are unique, and I wanted to ask you on the show specifically because I remember when I was in formation, and you remember sometimes they would they'd gather the wives of the deacon candidates
to listen to a different talk.
Yeah, and sometimes those talks would be almost like a a recovery group or something.
Yes,
Here are the things that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to
look forward to.
Yeah, and
or not look forward to.
Yeah, and some people had some, and I remember you coming out of that going Jeff, I don't want to go back to that because it's
yes, but I still wanted you to be a deacon.
Yes, and that's awesome.
Right.
And your support has been amazing. But I know that there were people that made you think that there was all these woes, the 7 woes of being a deacon's wife.
Yes.
And one of those first ones, you're going to be
lonely
in the pew, be all by yourself. Your deacon husband, he's in all his glory. He's all dressed up fancy, and he's up there on the stage, and you're going to sit.
Stage.
I know it's not.
That's what they would say.
Well,
but that's when I said back to them, but he gets to sit next to Jesus.
Oh, I know. And so that's so that would be the first thing on our list. I mean, the fact that you're pointing out that one of the unique things about a deacon is he essentially, he assists the priest presider.
Right.
And that's really a cool thing. That's one of those things where I recognized really quickly.
Right.
Right, that I'm actually literally, 2 feet away.
From the tabernacle.
Well, and then 2 feet away from the altar of sacrifice where Jesus is made present.
And when we had our kids were little and we'd all be sitting in the pew together, they loved that. They thought it was wonderful that you were sitting up there next to Jesus. I think it's one of our kids who said that.
Yeah, it's not a negative.
Right.
It really is something that's unique to the deacon. Again, to assist at Mass, to be there. You're not doing the stuff. I'm not doing the heavy lifting, as it were. The spiritual heavy lifting that a priest does, that only a priest can do. And I don't even have any desire to do that. I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool, but that's not my calling.
Right. Your calling is to assist him.
Yeah. And so I'm going to assist. I'm going to give him everything he needs. I will be there at his side, at the ready, and assist all through that Mass. And I think there's something really cool to kind of just be that, like, I don't think I'd ever want to be an exorcist, but I'd like to be an assistant exorcist.
Yes.
You're like in the show, but you're not
You're holding
really
their arms up.
Yeah, exactly. Like Aaron and her holding up Moses' arms.
Right.
Yeah, so
something important.
That's really really a cool thing to see.
Right. But right next to that was when you get to proclaim the gospel every Sunday or every day.
And it falls to the deacon, like the church will tell us, the general instruction of the Roman Missal and the rubrics in the Mass tell us that it's the deacon that proclaims the gospel.
Yes, to the people. And again, for our kids, that was beautiful. That you would be proclaiming the gospel. You would be the person telling the world Jesus' words, God's words.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
so
100%.
Cool.
And trust me, it's an honor. It's actually, I don't want to say it's a heavy burden, but it's a tremendous. There's a weight there. There's a divine and spiritual weight that I think is really cool. But to be able to be, I mean, you are the living mouthpiece of God,
exactly,
of God's divine revelation, and so. If you're a deacon out there, if you're thinking about it, it's like, that's a cool benefit. I'm just saying that's like a blessing to be in that process.
I remember when we were in Rome and the deacon chanted the gospel, and it was a gospel that you had chanted before, and I was like, this is just like being home. But if you had been in Rome, the deacon chants the gospel.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Throughout the world.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And I love that.
Cool.
That's definitely something that's really cool to experience.
But the other great thing about a deacon and a deacon in our church is he's the people. He's from the people. He's not a priest. I mean, I love our holy priests. They're amazing
and we need more of
wonderful.
Those.
But they haven't lived the life that most deacons have lived. And I think the people can experience that.
Right. And you say rightly that I'm not the priest, and I don't want to be the priest. I keep telling that to people because a lot of people think, well, you guys just want to be like priests.
Right,
you want all the glory.
I think some priests think that.
Yeah, but I think also some deacons do, and people think that like I'm like a show stealer. I'm trying to steal the thunder or whatever, which I promise you I'm not. But there's a theological understanding I think that you're tapping into, and that is that like the deacon is like a bridge. Because I came out of the people. Yes. I am the people. Right. Because I've got a wife and I've got kids and, we've had a dog and we have a mortgage. And it's like there's a lot of the people's concerns and we live that life. But I'm a bridge between those people, right?
And the altar.
And the altar, the priest, right? And so there's a really cool thing about that, which it's just not simply just a bridge. Right. It's also this idea of like where you came from.
Right. And that you can say, like you've experienced the mortgage, you've experienced the troubles, you've experienced the sick kids or the sick parents or things that make it hard that a priest has not experienced
as much, right?
As much.
And we have some priests that have, and I'm not saying that they're like totally innocuous and don't get that. But we are like a living reality of that in the church. Day. I think so. And it also it means that like the unique like the world of priesthood is unique because they get out, they see the people, and they desire to know the people. But like literally, the deacon comes out of the people and is a constant reminder of who the people are. He knows them,
and he can help the priest understand it too, just like he can help the people. He can help the priest understand where the people are coming from. Is that the right way to say it?
I think that's exactly the right way. Because here's the thing. People have concerns. People have needs. They have all these things that they think about. And literally because the deacon knows them, right? The deacon knows them, then he can speak for them. So when people think like, there's no one to speak for us. There's all these ordained people, right? And there are all these lofty, like, fancy people up there, and we see this church hierarchy, and sometimes people can think like they're not represented. People don't know their needs, and it's like it's all this lofty theological stuff. And the reality is, I think, when you have the diaconate, like the permanent deacon who is living that life as well as, because he's clergy, but he also is living not on the church property, right? Typically. And he's typically married, like 98% or so are married. And so there's just a lot of that reality. So he can speak for them. He can advocate for them. And certainly he can also serve them.
Yes.
So,
again, knowing what it is that they need is perfect.
And that taps into the diaconal call to charity and to help others. And who can help people in need better than the one that knows those people? Like the church's principle of subsidiarity, that things happen on that local level, and the deacon's in the middle of that. So that you've tapped into something great there, that really does help people to see that, like, they do have a voice.
Right. And then that makes it be somebody they can come to when they need something. Like, people aren't always happy to go to a priest, or maybe embarrassed isn't the right word, but just thinking a priest isn't going to understand. But they can go to a deacon and say, this is my problem. I'm having trouble paying my utility bills. I'm having trouble getting food for my kids. I have a kid who's going here or going there. And a deacon, they just feel more comfortable, I think, coming to you.
Sometimes that's the case. Now, I would tell people, don't ever be shy or afraid to go to the priest. There's nothing ever wrong. But I think people naturally feel a draw to somebody who is currently living in that situation, right? So, like, let's list those problems you started listing. Let's list one and say there's a relationship problem. I'm having a problem, like, with my wife, or understanding something. We're not communicating well, or my husband is doing this or that. And someone who is married might be someone that you would want to talk to first. Doesn't mean you can't go to the priest, who can minister to you, especially sacramentally. But the honest truth is, like, if you're trying to discuss something, you want to kind of go with the person that
knows what you're discussing,
that has a family relationship. When the kids are, like, priests typically don't have children, right? Doesn't mean they don't know this stuff. That's why I want to keep saying that, because I don't think that you only go to the deacon, but I think a deacon, it's a blessing to be sought after, because you do have a connection with those people. Right. You know them. And so that concept of...
And it can be a perceived connection. Like, they can just... It will be easier to tell you this, because I know that you have a wife, or you have kids, or... And
a number of times when people have done that, I've said, now, that's great, that's good. I appreciate that we talk. I've counseled, I've discussed problems, and maybe not things that I've experienced personally, but I know, like, what happens in a family and in a relationship. But also, I've also said, I think you need to go see Father now, because you're going to need a confession. You're going to need to go through this process, this healing process, and this reconciliation with God and the church and all the people. But yeah,
that's great, though, because then you get to be the bridge to the priest.
That's right, 100%.
So it is, people can come there, and I think people do sometimes, because they want you to go, okay, now you need to go to the priest. And now you can go to the priest and say, they're coming to talk to you about this, Father. Not that he wouldn't know beforehand, but it's just a bridge is the best description.
Well, and it's a natural, a natural thing. It's like it's in nature. It's the nature of who we are.
I think it's one of the reasons the church has wanted to have deacons back again.
And the other interesting thing that it actually turns out to be one of the things on our list, you are listing things that the deacon's blessed to be able to do, especially at a mass. The church actually prefers that the deacon do the universal prayer, or the prayers of the faithful, or the general intercessions, or whatever your parish calls it. It's technically called the universal prayer, but these are the prayers of the church. And so the deacon is actually tasked with that. So if you read the general instruction, which I'm sure everybody's got a copy by their bedside,
exactly,
when they have a little trouble falling asleep. Well, so you want to fall asleep easily, just read a church liturgy book. It'll put you right to sleep. But the point is, in there, it always prefers the deacon. And you stop and think about it theologically, and what we've been talking about practically. Right. What did we just say? The deacon knows the people. He knows their concerns. He knows their needs. Right. And so when he, like, when they ask questions, when they need prayers, he's like, they come to him, and he knows them. So think about this, like, when the priest is there offering the sacrifice, And he like turns to his deacon because he trusts his deacon, and the priest should trust his deacon. And he basically, now these are not the words he would say, but basically he says, in intention here, all right, deacon, so what am I offering this mass for?
Right.
Why am I doing this particular mass? What do the people of God need?
Right.
And the deacon who knows the people, Acts chapter 6, he comes right out of the people and he says, look, here's what they need. And then he goes through this list, starting with, the world and the Pope and the church and all these big things, working his way down to these small needs that are happening in the community,
parish.
right? Or in the parish. And so the deacon is the one that really announces the needs, the prayers that the priest says, thank you very much. Now let me do the thing that I do. And then he offers
but now
that
that
sacrifice.
I know what to offer for.
That's exactly right.
It's very important.
Again, it's a very practical way of looking at those kinds of things. And I think a lot of times we don't think about just the practicality of what the deacon is. And again, if you view the deacon as only a glorified altar server,
you don't get to see all the true things that he does.
Right. You
Offering
miss that.
the prayers of the people is a huge one. But the other one that goes great with that is at the end of Mass. You get to
send them forth.
And
this is the thing I always remind people. It's like, if you don't appreciate a deacon, you need to at least understand this. If it weren't for the deacon, you'd be stuck at Mass.
Because he's the one who gets to say,
Ite missa est, right? He's the one that says, go and announce the gospel of the Lord, or go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life. There's like 4 options that he can say.
All of them say go.
That's right, go, get out of here. We have another Mass. That's not what he says.
The kids liked that part too a whole lot growing up.
It's time for breakfast.
We're going to get donuts.
Yeah, donuts. But really, seriously though, it's another thing that's like, well, we need somebody to dismiss the people, so we throw it to the deacon. It's like, that's not what's going on. Remember, he's the bridge.
Right.
It's always the deacon that instructs the people during the Mass. The deacon is the one who
bow down for the blessing.
Right. In a solemn blessing, he'll say, bow down for the. He tells the people what to do. On Good Friday, when we have the great intercessions, that we offer for the church and the world, those long ones that everyone goes like, I don't know if I want to go to Good Friday because it's all this long stuff.
No, it's beautiful.
It is very beautiful. And the deacon, again, announces each one of those, and then the priest follows up. And if you hear it chanted, it's just quite beautiful. When the deacon is like launching into these long intercessions,
again,
like
the prayers of the faithful.
Right. This is what we're praying for, and then the priest then answers that prayer with his prayer, and it's just, I think it's really, and again, if you're not a deacon and you're thinking there's nothing special about that, it's like, I don't know, I see it as a blessing.
Cool.
Yeah,
it is a blessing.
And I know you've said things like, I am so glad you're a deacon.
I am so glad that you're a deacon.
And I couldn't do it without you supporting me in that. And again, it's always good that we can leave Mass.
Yes, it's time to go.
It's so funny. Also, I love that dismissal. So the original Latin is ite missa est, and that missa is the word basically just means sent.
Right.
And basically, it's like go, it's get out of here, but go and be sent. And missa is where we get the word Mass.
Right.
Right. But it's also where we get the word mission.
Yep.
So I'm sending you on mission. So you have been nourished by the Word of God. You've been nourished by the living Word of God in the Eucharist you've consumed. And now you're a living tabernacle, and you're now being sent by the deacon
to go
out into the world. Right? And to carry Jesus, that message, that saving message to everybody. And that's heavy lifting.
That's really cool, though.
But it makes you realize that the permanent deacon especially, but by the way, the transitional deacons
does all of these things.
They do all these things too. They're not necessarily the same when it comes to coming out of the people. So like a young transitional deacon who might be, 25, or 26 or 27, he may not have the family experiences of the mortgage and all those things.
Right, exactly.
But he's still fresh out of his family, so he should know his family pretty well. But still, especially at the Mass, the deacon's role in that sort of public worship, but then also in all of the ministries around the parish, in all the ministries. This Catholic Cafe is a ministry.
Right, exactly.
Right? And so we are serving. We serve the church by serving the people, which essentially serves God and allows all this stuff to work in harmony. And it's just quite beautiful to be able to see all of that stuff at work theologically. And also it makes me smile to myself, you know. And so even though you're not lonely, because you actually sit out there with kids and family, and now a couple of grandkids.
Exactly.
And I can see Zeke when he recognizes me, our 1-year-old grandson, right? And he smiles and he goes like, and when he sees Deacon up there, and it's like, that's what they call me, you know, Grand Deacon.
Yes.
That's an ecclesial title that I got permission from the bishop to say. I'm going to be clear about that. Well, everyone else, like at the table, when they're talking about like, what do your grandkids call you? And they're going around going like Pawpaw and Peepaw and Papaw, and I'm like, those are silly baby names. But instead, you know, I like the name Grand Deacon, and they laugh at me. I'm going like, I'm proud of that. I'm keeping that. I'm keeping that
Got
one.
shortened to just Deacon, but still,
exactly.
It's still fun. Yes. On top of the prayers of the faithful or the prayers on Good Friday that you get to chant, I love the Easter Vigil. That's just like one of those wonderful, wonderful times where being a deacon is so cool and so wonderful.
Because there are some unique things
just that the deacon gets to do.
Like now, if there's not a deacon there, sometimes the priest has got to step in.
I know, but it's meant to be the deacon for all of the reasons we've already given. For all of the reasons that you're the bridge between the people and the clerics. And it's just so beautiful. You get to be the person that does what? What word do you get to introduce after Lent?
Oh yeah, wait till that's the last one we're going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to break that one.
I jumped.
That's really cool though.
It is. It's very cool.
But like the thing is like this. So the Easter Vigil, how many people do we know? Well, maybe when we were newly married, we weren't really super excited about going to the vigil.
Right.
Now, okay, let me clarify. I wasn't. You would have gone.
I would have gone.
And you might have gone a couple times that you didn't tell me about. I don't know.
Well, we did have to do the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, we were there to make sure the Easter Bunny had everything he needed. And the thing is, I realize that, but now it's like Easter's not complete for me
unless
there is an Easter Vigil, and then I'm part of it.
And all of our kids feel that way too. That's awesome.
And I really believe that when I get to the point where I cannot physically function as a deacon in the way that I used to, I don't want to call it retirement because you never really retire from clerical state, right? You just don't have assignments or obligations.
You don't do as much work.
You know, things like that. But the reality is you'll still be a deacon. I still am going to want to go to the Easter Vigil. There's something about it that really makes Easter so special. You know, and the first thing to me is just the idea of like, you start outside, and the priest, he lights the candle.
Right.
He lights that fire, which is like the primordial fire of creation.
But then you read the gospel outside.
Yes, there's a reading there that I do, but still, that candle is very. We all know the Easter candle is symbolic.
Right.
It's, you know, Christ is always present where there's a candle. And when we see the candle in a church, it always represents the light of Christ, right? And so this candle, what's really cool is the church is dark.
Right, it's all black.
That's right, and everyone wants to sit in there in the middle of the dark because they want to save their seat, whatever. You know, you're never going to tell people not to do that. But just to sit in there and be part of that, and then the deacon carries the Easter candle that it's lit into the darkened church, like symbolizing bringing Christ into the darkened world.
To the people.
And it's like, I look at that and go like, that's a heavy lifting.
That's another heavy
lifting. And literally
lifting.
The candle is pretty heavy, typically.
Yeah, well,
you know?
I don't know. I've never lifted it. But I love the whole idea. It's just so beautiful.
And when you're doing that, like you're leading that procession, and then the deacon announces, like, he'll chant like, Lumen Christi, you know, like, which is basically the light of Christ, right? When he's saying the light of Christ, when he says that, and then the people respond, you know, thanks be to God, or Deo gratias, depending on if you're doing it in Latin or not, and how powerful that is that you are announcing the light of Christ to the people.
Yes.
This here is the light of Christ.
And
y'all.
It's beautiful. Look, it's here. It's coming in.
I know.
And it's the only light in the whole darkened church.
I know.
And so everybody's staring at it. And it's just so beautiful.
And then in that process, you do it 3 times. And in that process, like there's this like systematic lighting of candles.
Right.
Where all of a sudden, all the people who have followed you in and taken their places, and you're standing at the front of the church holding this lit candle, and all their candles are lit. That is a sight to behold. So I don't know if you've not gone to a vigil in a long time or you've never gone, you need to go. Right. And
then
you
the
guys.
next thing that happens.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. So the next thing. So this is like, to me, it's like one of the ultimate moments of the diaconate. And it should be a bucket list
Every
item
deacon
for
should
every
do.
deacon. But
Every deacon.
The reality is we are charged with the responsibility of essentially blessing the Easter candle.
Yes.
I mean, the priest blesses the incense, but then we take that incense over and we are the one blessing the candle.
And announcing the candle to the world.
That's exactly right. So
I love that.
So we sing the Exultet. Now, a lot of guys are scared of chanting, and I get it. And I will tell you, there's a lot of people that are way better chanters than me. But there's something about going to exalt. Let them exalt the hosts of heaven.
It's so beautiful.
And when that echoes out into the
Quiet
church, and like you are basically singing that candle's praises to the people.
Right.
And you're really recounting salvation history. So that is something that's really powerful. And then you had mentioned what I get to do as a deacon.
Yes.
I get to say Alleluia before anybody else when I'm with the bishop at the cathedral. And it's like I get to say, Most Reverend Father, I bring to you a message of great joy, the message of Alleluia. Then he takes that Alleluia and gives it to the people. The deacon gets to do that. So
the first Alleluia.
There are so many really cool blessings. I also love baptizing, marrying the grandkids, being part of ministering
to do that
to
and
the
everything.
people.
That's wonderful to do that with all the grandkids.
And then
but there's
also sad times like burying my mom and stuff. But I get to be a minister in the church,
world.
ministering to those people at those moments. That's beautiful. But I'm going to tell you the biggest blessing.
Okay, what's the biggest?
We get to get married. I would not be Catholic and I would not be a deacon if it weren't for you. I tell you that every once in a while, don't
You
I?
do, and it's
I tell you how much I love you, and I would tell everybody in the world how much I love my wife, Bess.
And
everyone
how much I
pray
love my
for
husband,
Bess,
the deacon.
Yeah, okay. But these are like these are some really cool blessings. And so if you're a guy thinking about this is your time.
It's great to be the
Right?
wife
Wives,
of a deacon.
encourage your husbands. The
Because
church
it's
needs
wonderful.
this. Let's ask Blessed Mary to help us with this. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Catholic Cafe. If you'd like to contact Deacon Jeff, send him an email at deaconjeff@thecatholiccafe.com. Visit us on the web at thecatholiccafe.com. You can also find us on iTunes or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The Catholic Cafe is brought to you by the Order of Malta Federal Association. Join us again at the Catholic Cafe, serving up salvation one cup of coffee at a time.